khỏi nạn này.
A major storm does not always signal a disaster, but this one was different. On Thursday evening, central Vietnam was plunged into violent darkness as Super Typhoon Kijiji Kalmaegi, Asia's deadliest storm this year, began to make landfall. The storm, known in Vietnam as Typhoon number 13, Bao So 13, brought with it destructive winds and torrential rain. This disaster was not a singular event, but a dual crisis for a region already exhausted after a week of severe flooding. The preceding floods had caused at least 47 deaths, inundated over 100,000 homes, and triggered more than 150 landslides across the region. Historical sites such as Hoi An Ancient Town and the Hue Monuments Complex had also been submerged in the earlier floods. Now, Typhoon Kalmaegi arrived as a final blow, threatening to drown nascent recovery efforts, destructive intensity, and urgent warning. The storm, after intensifying over the East Sea and leaving a trail of devastation in the Philippines, made landfall on Vietnam's coast in Gia Lai, and Dak Las provinces on Thursday evening. It maintained wind speeds of up to 149 km/h, 92 mph, as it moved inland, with much stronger gusts recorded. On Thursday afternoon, the National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting reported that the storm's eye was approximately 70 to 100 kilometers, 43.62 miles off the coast, with maximum winds at level 11 to 13, 89 to 17 kilometers, and the potential for gusts exceeding level 15 to 16 upon landfall. In light of this very unusual situation, Vietnamese officials were urged to handle the situation with the highest level of urgency. Deputy Prime Minister Tran ordered all residents in high-risk coastal areas to remain indoors and completely banned all sea-based activities to minimize casualties. Massive evacuation and stalled traffic. In preparation for the storm's landfall, Vietnamese disaster prevention agencies executed large-scale evacuation plans in the core provinces of Gia Lai and Dak Lak. An estimated 350,000 people were moved to safety. Military forces and border guards were mobilized to assist with preparations. At local fishing ports, soldiers from the Sa Huyen border guard post used loudspeakers to urge all fishing vessels to immediately seek safe shelter. An AFP reporter in the neighboring Quy Nhon area witnessed officials going door to door, calling on residents to leave their homes and move to designated evacuation centers, such as local schools, which were being used as temporary shelters. Many elderly people and children were seen arriving at these centers with essential belongings. The air transport system was severely impacted. A total of 6 airports in the central region, including Phu Cat, Bien Din, Chu Lai, Tuy Hoa, Pleiku, and Buon Ma Thuat, were ordered to suspend operations from Thursday afternoon to Friday morning, affecting hundreds of flights. Seaports in adjacent coastal areas such as Quy Nhon also suspended all activity, requiring vessels to anchor in safe shelter zones. Quy Nhon, the swept-away epicenter. The coastal city of Quy Nhon, located in Bien Din province and bordering the core storm area, was one of the first to bear the full destructive force of the typhoon. Although the storm's eye was approximately 190 kilometers away on Thursday afternoon, the typhoon's violent wind gusts caused immediate damage. Typhoon Kalmaegi was not just wind, it was a sledgehammer. Initial reports in the evening indicated that as the storm moved inland, it caused immediate structural damage in coastal areas like Quy Nhon. High winds uprooted trees on main thoroughfares and hotel windows were shattered as violent gusts swept the coast. Additionally, power outages were reported in several areas. Coastal communities from Hue to Can Hoa were warned of a significant risk due to storm surges reaching 0.6 to 2 meters, 6 feet, and waves as high as 8 meters, 26 feet. Although the detailed record does not describe the scene of sweeping away houses and vehicles, As in the initial title, the combination of level 13 winds and fierce high tides created an utterly destructive environment where houses and vehicles near the shore could easily become debris floating in the raging water. As the storm's eye approached the shore, residents had to brace for a long, challenging night. Emergency response teams maintained the highest level of alert as the storm's full impact continued through the night. Now the immediate threat of the wind has passed, but it gives way to a greater concern: flooding and landslides, the long-term catastrophic threat lurking in mountainous and downstream areas. As Typhoon Kalmaegi began to weaken its winds and move deeper inland, the immediate threat was replaced by a more persistent and catastrophic danger: flooding and landslides. This is the dual disaster confronting central Vietnam: acute flood risk and mountain landslides. Meteorologists predicted that Kalmaegi would bring extreme localized rainfall between November 6th and 7th. Areas from Da Nang to Dak Lak could see an additional 200 to 400 millimeters of rain, with some isolated spots expected to exceed 600 millimeters 24 inches in this episode. This massive volume of water falling onto ground already completely saturated from a week of record rainfall posed an extremely high risk of flash floods and landslides in mountainous regions. Mountainous and plateau provinces such as Gia Lai and Lam Dong were particularly vulnerable. Notably, Lam Dong had already been affected by prior heavy rains, causing landslides and cracks on major national highways like National Highway 20 and National Highway 28. Authorities are particularly concerned about rapid river level rises and the risk of damage to already weakened infrastructure, including irrigation and hydropower reservoirs, which are being closely monitored. Flexible and safe water discharge management is paramount to preventing catastrophic downstream flooding. The situation at the World Heritage Sites became even more serious. Hoi An Ancient Town, Quang Nam Province, a UNESCO World Heritage Site which had already suffered severe flooding just days before Kalmaegi made landfall, was now facing the threat of a second flood wave. The rising river levels from the previous record rainfall had submerged many parts of the ancient town, forcing businesses to close and residents to navigate streets by boat. The iconic Japanese bridge and riverside houses were partially inundated. The arrival of Kalmaegi added to this disaster, bringing the threat of a new, potentially worse flood event. Residents described the experience as exhausting, having to move belongings to higher floors multiple times in just 1 week. For Hoi An, the primary concern was not the wind, but the impending rainfall. The unique blend of Vietnamese, Chinese, and Japanese architecture, the very elements that earned Hoi An its UNESCO designation, is highly vulnerable to prolonged exposure to water, threatening the structural integrity of the ancient wooden houses and temples. Although the storm's eye made landfall in the central region, the typhoon's circulation effects spread south. Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam's bustling financial hub, was placed on high alert. The threat to Ho Chi Minh City was a dangerous combination of heavy rain, forecast up to 100 mm from the storm's outer cloud bands, and an unusually high tide on the Saigon River. Forecasters warned that this combination posed a serious threat of inundating low-lying areas across the urban region. The U.S. Consulate General in Vietnam issued a weather advisory for the southern region, urging citizens to exercise extreme caution when traversing flood-prone areas and floodwaters. Central Vietnam faced a long, challenging night as emergency teams prepared for the storm's peak and potential search and rescue efforts. The entire community anxiously watched the rising river levels, hoping that the heavy rain forecast would not bring overly dire consequences. The Kalmaegi disaster is not just a story of wind and water, but a painful testament to the resonance of natural disasters and climate change. The biggest lesson here is the vulnerability of infrastructure and communities when faced with recurrent extreme weather events. It underscores the urgent need for enhancing infrastructure resilience, especially reservoir systems and coastal structures, respecting and protecting natural landscapes to mitigate landslides, solidarity and readiness to respond, because in the fight against the power of nature, human preparation is the decisive factor that differentiates survival from catastrophe. To better understand these horrific events and gain a full perspective on the increasing global natural disasters, do not miss any of our reports. Subscribe to the Horrific Happenings channel today. Turn on notifications to receive the most in-depth, timely, and comprehensive analyses of the events shaping our world. Subscribe and share the Horrific Happenings channel.